So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. Guys, make sure you smash the like button, guys. I really appreciate your support. Give that like button a smash. Guys, we are going to be going live in like literally, by the time this video's up, we're probably going to be going live. Sorry about the delay today. I was knackered, so I had a little kip. I was going to put up some videos, but unfortunately just didn't get the time. But yeah, give this video a smash, like button a smash, and we'll be going live discussing the ward and plant situation. However, I want to talk about a fantasy fight, which I don't think is going to happen. And that is Andre Ward v Canelo Alvarez. I was shocked to see how much, heat you guys were giving Andre Ward. Now I can understand some of you are Canelo fans, and you've said that when you're on the live stream as well. But I was surprised that, when I said that Andre Ward's a great fighter, and some of you saying, he's a very good fighter, but, he's not a great fighter. I do think Andre Ward, was a very, very good fighter. However, some of you guys made some good points. He didn't really fight in the super middleweight division. There wasn't really a lot of great fighters there. What I mean is they were good fighters, don't get me wrong, but they weren't elite fighters. You guys made some good points. However, I do think Andre Ward beat most of those guys comfortably and beat them easy. I do think that when he fought Kovalev, he fought somebody that was... I wouldn't say Kovalev was prime. I think he was on the slide when Ward fought him, but you could make an argument Ward was on the slide as well. And to be honest, I thought he lost that first fight against Kovalev. I think he was dropped, he was hurt, and I think you definitely can make a case for Kovalev winning that first fight. The second fight, yeah, he got to Kovalev. Kovalev was, for me, in that second fight, again, he was winning the fight for me on points. But Ward just got to him. And I think after that, I think the blueprint was set. I think Kovalev was definitely on the slide in the second fight. And I don't think, since the second fight onwards, I don't really think Kovalev's been the same Kovalev, to be honest. And I think Andre Ward did what he had to do in the second fight. Fair enough. You got to give him credit because he beat a guy that was a top fighter in the weight class above. So you got to give Andre Ward a lot of props. But now, how would Andre Ward get on against someone like Canelo Alvarez? Canelo Alvarez, for me, is a better boxer than Kovalev. He's not a bigger puncher than Kovalev, right? Canelo Alvarez got a better chin than Kovalev. He's got a better defense than Kovalev. However, Ward would have physical advantages over him. That would be a really, really good fight. Canelo Alvarez has fought better competition than Ward. You have to say that because Canelo fought a prime GGG. And again, most people thought Canelo lost that first fight against GGG, but Canelo won the second fight for me. And for me, I don't think Ward had a better win than GGG. Now, you could make a case that he beat Kovalev, but like I just said, I think Kovalev was on the slide in that second fight. And really, when you look at GGG for me won the first fight against Canelo. So there was no evidence he was on the slide. And Canelo won that second fight for me. So I personally think that that's a great win. Then Canelo had many other fights that, we don't have to go into Canelo's resume. We know how many good fights Canelo's beaten. I just think that his resume, his experience is a lot more. However, in terms of them head-to-head, Ward had a way of neutralizing guys, making it difficult. However, for me, Canelo's a very spiteful fighter. Could he do that could Andre Ward do that with Canelo Alvarez? I'm not sure. I think it's difficult to say. But Canelo's getting so good and becoming such a great fighter, right? For me, Andre Ward would beat everyone that Canelo's beaten right now in super middleweight division. Like Billy Joe wouldn't beat Andre Ward. Caleb Plant wouldn't beat Andre Ward. Callum Smith won't beat Andre Ward. So it's hard to say because I would definitely say that Andre Ward fought better fighters than what Canelo is at super middleweight right now. I'll definitely say these guys are in their prime, but I don't think, these guys are stellar champions. So It's difficult to say. I thought Ward fought better competition at super middleweight. Canelo's destroying these guys a lot better than what Froch was. I mean, a lot better than what Ward was in the super middleweight division. He was winning comfortably as well, but Canelo's just bashing these guys up. So Canelo, it would be a great fight. And not, here's the thing, Canelo's a better fighter than Andre Ward. What I mean that as an all-time great, Canelo will go down a much better fighter because Canelo's more accomplished. However, we're talking about two guys going up, and Andre Ward was bigger than Canelo. And he was a very skilled fighter, and he used to he neutralized guys like a little bit like Mayweather. I don't think he was as good as Mayweather because Mayweather had a much tougher division, and Mayweather did it against much better men, whereas Andre Ward did it against lesser men. Let's be honest, the guys that were Mayweather was fighting, some of them in his division were also greats, whereas Ward never really fought any greats, let's be honest. So for me, it would be a great fight. It would be a great fight. Who would I pick? I probably, with the experience, with the accomplishments, I'll probably slightly lean towards Canelo, to be honest. But it won't be surprised if it goes the other way. I think the way some of you guys were making it out like Canelo would just destroy Ward, he wouldn't. It would be a very tough fight. Just because of the fact, not because like I said, Ward's a better fighter, and some of you were pointing out, well, Canelo's way better. Yeah, Canelo is, for me, a better fighter because Canelo has accomplished more. Canelo, for me, is a bigger puncher than Ward. Canelo, for me, does everything Ward does. He's a very slick fighter. See, these are things that Canelo is underrated. Canelo is underrated. And some of his attributes are underrated, like his slickness, like his head movement, like his defense. Some of those attributes that Canelo has are a little underrated. I think people don't really. I don't really think people look at how good his defense is, how he gets, how hard he is to hit. And Ward would come up against somebody that has as good as IQ as him. See, Ward. If you look at Ward's career, who did he really fight that was anywhere near Canelo's level? Even Kovalev wasn't as good as Canelo. From a ring IQ, boxing IQ point of view, Canelo's on another level to Kovalev and anyone that Ward really fought. So it's hard to say because it's not like a Ward fought another guy that was on Canelo's level, in terms of ring IQ, boxing IQ. And that makes a big difference. Because if Ward had beaten someone like Canelo Alvarez, and here's the thing, a lot of you say that, Ward's not an all-time great. I'd go with that. Maybe I got it. Maybe I'm a bit wrong here. Ward, for me, didn't have the longevity. However, he did have a lot of accomplishments and he won a gold medal at the Olympics. But I get it. He didn't have another great in his era to really prove. I know he fought Kovalev, but what I mean is he didn't have another Roy Jones. He didn't have another, and he didn't really move up that many weight classes that, where he moved up 2-3 weight classes like Canelo has, right? Canelo had Golovkin. And here's the thing, Ward wanted to fight Golovkin, but Golovkin, he was more interested in a Canelo fight, probably because financially it made more sense to Golovkin to fight Canelo than Ward, and Ward was a bigger guy, right? And financially, the fight wouldn't have been anywhere near as big the Canelo fight. So I can understand GGG. And GGG maybe looked at Canelo and thought he had better chance of beating Canelo. Maybe that's why GGG didn't want to fight Andre Ward. But to be honest with you, when you look at what Canelo's accomplished, and then when you look at all the guys that Andre Ward's fought, it's difficult to say, that Andre Ward would beat Canelo. Because I don't think Ward really fought anybody on Canelo's level, so it's hard. It's hard to say that Ward will beat Canelo. Just because of the fact that he hasn't really fought anybody on that level, so I don't know how he would get on. Now Ward was a natural 168, and he was a big 168. That could be an advantage to him. And like I said, for me, I never ever said Ward was a better fighter than Canelo. Never said that. You need to listen to what I said. I said that in a head-to-head matchup, because Ward was bigger, that fight would be a tough fight for Canelo because he's fighting someone very skilled and fighting somebody that's very big. That doesn't mean that he's a better fighter. I never said that Ward's a better fighter because he didn't really have the opposition to prove that. You know, he beat everybody in his division, but like I said, there wasn't no really elite fighter in that division where, you know, you can say that he beat him, he beat all of the guys, yes, but there wasn't a lot of elite fighters in that division. Like you can say like your Roy Jones, you know, your Canelo Alvarez of the world, your Calzaghes, guys of that level. That Ward didn't really have that sort of competition where he could judge himself against some of the elite that we know of in around those divisions. And unfortunately, that's what kind of holds Ward's back. Hold Ward's back. That's why nobody really mentions him in the same breath as a Pacquiao or a Mayweather, because he didn't really have the competition to prove himself. But in terms of who I think would have won, I would have slightly given the edge to Canelo because Canelo just looked like he's getting better. And I don't know how, I don't really think Ward would have had the power to hurt Canelo. And I don't know, and the most important thing is, it would be difficult to win a decision over Canelo. And I could see the fight playing out the same way like the Kovalev fight where Ward wins. I just think it would be a very difficult fight for Ward. I won't think it would be very easy. And you guys are right. Ward had cracks in his game. Ward, it wasn't like Ward was invincible. Ward's been put down. Ward's, you know, you could make an argument he was being outboxed the second time. And the first time, you know, Kovalev outboxed him. You could make a case. So there wasn't like Ward was unbeatable and he was just... There was cracks there, and Canelo could have definitely found those cracks because, like I said, I think Canelo would have been the best fighter on Andre Ward's resume. So what do you guys think? Do you think Canelo would have beaten Andre Ward? Leave your thoughts, guys. And guys, let me know what you think. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.